My story starts out in my 20s, and I met, and at that time, what I thought was this amazing young man. We met actually at Walmart. I should have known then, and it wasn't going far. At that time, I actually had just gotten divorced. I got married when I was 19. So I was kind of 23 is actually when I met him, and so I was kind of vulnerable.
The relationship started off as a normal relationship. We met at the club one night when I was out with my friends, and we started dating a couple weeks after that. I didn't suspect anything. He didn't show any anger issues or any type of displays of being abusive at all.
I met my oldest daughter's father when I was in the 11th grade back in New Orleans. We met on the bus. I gave him my number. He walked me to the corner. We became a couple right after that, and it was really good, really, really good. We had good conversation. We would go out, have fun, and then, I don't know, 6 months after that, that's when it all began.
Time went on, and I kind of knew that this gentleman was a good guy, but there were some things about him that just weren't adding up. You know, he wouldn't tell me where he lived. He only wanted to know where I lived. And
around 4 months into the relationship, that's when I noticed that no matter what I was doing, he was right there. I'd go to the restroom, he'd stand in the doorway. I'd go into the other room, he would follow me into the other room. I was on the phone, he was right next to me. He was asking who I was talking to at work. He asked who my coworkers were at work. And it got to the point it was so controlling that every move that I made, he had to know about it.
You know, after a long period of time, I was like, you know what? I can't take this anymore. I know you're seeing somebody else, there were signs. He was angry that I had brought up the fact again that I know you're seeing somebody else. I know you're seeing somebody else. And at this time, we were in his truck.
He would just slap me for no reason and tell me to cry. But I didn't understand it then because I didn't come from that. He will apologize afterward. After he would apologize, things would be good. Then it would happen again. And then he would apologize, buy me gifts, say it would happen again. I'm sorry. You know, he would just come home and we'll have a fight. But at the end, he would tell me he loved me. And so I believed that. So not only did the physical happen, the mental started.
It was more of a controlling situation. I left. It was about 2 days later, and he calls me. And he's like, I'm coming to get you. I tried explaining to him, I am at home, we're not together anymore, I don't want any part of this. And he didn't want to hear any of that. And he just said, get whatever you got over there, you need to get it because I'm coming to get you. And whoever interferes with that, it's going to be a problem.
And somehow, as I'm talking, lips moving in the middle of conversation, from that side of the car, he hit me on this side of my face. And he got out of the truck. By the time he came back, he had a bag of ice in his hand.
Fearing that he was going to come and hurt my grandmother or hurt any of my family members, I got all of my stuff and I went back. It was constant. It didn't get any better. It got to a point to where I couldn't take a shower without him being home.
He bought me a house and we moved together, and it got even worse. He beat me and tried to strangle me with an extension cord. And he stumped me to where my neighbor called the police. And when my neighbor called the police, I went to the door and the police was like, everything is okay. And I was like, yeah, because he was standing on the other side with a gun pointed at me. And it was nothing that I can do.
The first time where I had an actual physical fight with him, it was over a night out that we spent with his cousin. He accused me of actually wanting to be with him. He goes, if you want to be with him, you need to get out right now. After he starts throwing all of my stuff out and I'm not going anywhere, he grabs me and starts to physically take me out of the house at this point. All of a sudden, his neighbor comes out. She's kind of telling him, hey, if you want the relationship to be over, there's a better way to handle this. There's no reason for you to actually put your hands on the girl.
He was a truck driver. You know, he had just started driving trucks. And so the closest he got to Dallas was a place called Buda, Texas, which is right outside of Austin. And I met him down there, and I forgot my birth control pills. And he found out that I was pregnant because I called him and I told him, I said, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. And within a couple hours, I opened the door. I didn't know how enraged at that time that he really was. Had no clue how mad he was. And he decided that he didn't want a baby at all. And he kicked me in my stomach. Well, he pushed me down to the ground. And in the process of pushing me down to the ground, he kicked me in my stomach over and over again. And as I'm blocking my stomach, I'm thinking, God, come on, God, come on, God. Let anything happen. And a neighbor hear me screaming because I was yelling to the top of my lungs. Let anybody just hear me scream, God, anything. And then he finally stopped and he left. I knew that I knew I had a miscarriage. I knew it. I knew it right then. I knew it. And within days, I was having a miscarriage. I lost the baby.
You know, a lot of people say, why didn't you get out? Why didn't you run? Why didn't you? It's easier said than done. I stayed because I loved him and I became in love with him. I would have been pistol whipped. I've been, like, again, stumped. He just slapped me in my face or punched in the face or you name it, I've had it done to me. And every time I would try to leave, he would find me and he'll come get me. And he knew the words to say to bring me back in. After I realized I didn't want this no more, I got pregnant with my daughter, my oldest daughter. She's 24 now. I got pregnant with her and I wanted to leave. And he told me if I was to ever leave, he'll kill me and her. I stayed. My love became fear. I knew I had to leave, but I didn't know how to leave.
We got into an argument, and I don't even remember what it was. At this point, the arguments were happening every other day. And at this particular day, I felt like the next day I wasn't going to be alive. He starts trying to take me down the stairs and physically remove me from the house. He's choking me. He backs me up against the rail, and he goes, if you don't stop, I'm going to flip you over. We're on the 3rd floor of his apartment. At that point in time, the neighbor came out again. This time she comes out and she physically rushes him and tells him, you get off that girl. She goes, I need you to make a decision because I can't be there to save you every time he puts his hands on you. You're young and you have a full life ahead of you. And some relationships, I will say, are worth saving. But she said, baby, this isn't one of them. I left out of her apartment, went back over there, and he's apologizing again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt you. I just have a problem. And it was the first time I think he's ever admitted.
I was so sick of it. I'm telling you, I was so sick of I was just tired. I was worn out. I had holes all in the wall at the house, It was just that apartment was beat up. That apartment was an example of me. It was beat up. There were holes everywhere. The last time he hit me, we had just come back from out of town. We went to the Jazz Fest. I had a black eye on that trip. My mom, everybody asked me, like, what happened? And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, Mom. I told him, I said, I was playing basketball and I got hit in the eye with the ball. I hated lying to my mama, but I couldn't tell her the truth, It was like, man.
I start to doze off, and while he's laying next to me, he's literally reading the Bible. And all of a sudden, I can hear a flick of a lighter. And I don't think anything of it. I start smelling my hair burn. He's flicking the lighter, burning my hair as I'm sleeping next to him, as he's reading the Bible. And he goes, I told you something's wrong with me. He was like, and I only burned a little bit of your hair. You're tripping. I wake up the next morning and he tells me, I'm going to take you to work today. I'm sorry. And whatever happened last night will never happen again. And I looked over at him and I said, I know it won't. I got out of the car. I left. I went into the classroom with the other teachers I work with, and I walked up to one of them and I said, "My boyfriend beats me. He beats me. And I'm scared that I'm not gonna make it through the week." We went into a closet and pulled up my shirt, and you can see all of the choke marks from the previous night. You can see his handprints on my neck. You see the bruises on my stomach from when we were fighting. You can see his knee prints in my chest from all of the bruising and all the fighting. And they said, "You know what? You're not going back." So, sorry.
I was tired. I became lost. I lost me in him. I became so depressed that I didn't want to be around people. I told God, "I need you to get me out of here." I went downstairs and I faced him and I looked him in his eyes and I said, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired." And I said, "Whatever you have to do it now, because I'm not coming back." And he told me, "You know what would happen if I was to leave?" I said, "I'm willing to take the consequences to save my daughter." That became the turning point of where I became my own rescue. So I had to start rebuilding myself on the inside. I had to start rebuilding me, start speaking to me. I had to tap into the little girl because she was gone.
He was angry because I wasn't answering his phones out of town, phone calls while I was out of town, and he actually thought that I cheated on him. That's what he thought. He struggled me down to the ground. He was on the ground choking me, but somehow I got him off of me. But he was so enraged. He was so enraged. I was screaming for help, help me, somebody, anybody. I mean, I was screaming, and he grabbed my hair. I literally was fighting, kicking, screaming so loud that somebody opened their door downstairs. She was my angel. Never forget her. Just opening the door, he released me. And he left. And the cops came and they took the report and all that good stuff. But that was the first time I ever filed a report.
I was interviewed by a female officer, and the very first thing she asked me was, "Before I write any of this up, before we go through with any of this, I need to know that you're done. Because most of the women that come here, they report abuse, they end up going back. But I need to know for your protection that you're done and where you're going after this." So they sent me home with one of the women that I work with, and I slept on her couch. She had one bedroom, slept on her couch, and every week they would rotate the ladies' house that I stayed at. And my phone rings, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's him, and he goes, "I'm coming to get you." And I realize after he's talking, and at this point, you can hear the fear in his voice. I just hang up the phone. I realized at that point I had taken whatever power he had over me back, and I could begin healing, and I could begin moving on from the situation that I had just left.
I met a guy and I got married. I met him in January, dated in February, got married in March. Yes, it was like a popcorn thing, but I married him to get over him. It didn't work at all because I married him for all the wrong reasons. And I was married almost 14 years, but I was miserable the whole time because he was very verbal abusive. Like, he wanted to control, but he couldn't control me because of what I went through before. We would always lash at each other, always.
The turning point for me when I said I wasn't going back is when the officers came in the house and asked me about all the holes in the wall. And I had to tell them why I had all these holes in the walls. And for them, they're like, "Come on, ma'am, you're beautiful. You don't need to live like this, And I'm like, "I'm beautiful," because, you hadn't heard it in a while, and so you lose yourself, Oh, man. The holes in the walls. Oh, man. The holes in the walls were something that I had asked him to do so that he wouldn't hit me. I asked him to hit the walls. And so you just had holes everywhere in the walls. Whenever he got angry, I'd beg, just please don't hit me. Just hit, please. I'd beg and plead. And so for me, I thought, that's why I stayed so long, because I thought he was trying. not to hit me because he was hitting the walls. So, holes everywhere, every room, including the bathroom and the kitchen.
I feared him because of his words and because of his controlling behavior, but I had done what I needed to do to take my power back, and I'm not going to live in fear of him or any of his threats anymore.
My ex-husband told me I'd never be nothing being a makeup artist. I pushed myself into being one of the best makeup artists in Dallas.
It is very important. It is vital for my healing process that I help other women.
These women I worked with, they weren't my family. They bought me clothes. They let me eat their food. Let me use their computers to do things. They even offered to pay some of my bills for me. For those women, I'm eternally grateful for.
I forgave him, I forgave myself, and I moved forward. But at the same time, I forgive you because it's going to make me be a strong woman. So I minister through makeup. And I'm willing to open myself up and let other people know that you don't have to be where you are.
I think what was important for me is that I had some type of support system to allow me to fully heal and say, hey, this is not going to define you. It's going to make you stronger.
If you got to walk away and leave it all to start all over again, do that. Because you can replace things, but you can't replace life. You can't do that.
When a woman flees her home after being a victim of domestic violence, it's one of the most gut-wrenching things that you have to do. But it's one of the most freeing things that you could possibly do.
By giving what I've given to different shelters, shoes and clothes, volunteering, it's helping them move forward with their life. And to be able to tell my story and to provide some type of strength to these women is important to me.
You leave behind all of your belongings, your pictures, the things that you have collected, the shoes, the clothes, all of that good stuff sometimes. So this is the reason why I came up with the Heels on the Move to Heal charity shoe fashion show. There's something about a great high heel that makes a woman feel a lot more confident. The feeling of walking in a new pair of shoes, either walking into a job or walking on a date, especially after you have come out of a situation like domestic violence, is a life changer. And so I wanted women who have been victims of domestic violence to be able to have that feeling of, oh, I'm so beautiful and I'm so amazing in this new pair of shoe. And it may be a used pair of shoe, but it's new to somebody. Making women understand, making women feel better by just putting a good pair of shoes on their feet. Because when you leave and you have no shoes, sometimes you have no clothes. A lot of women donate clothes already. The shoes was the one thing we realized that people weren't donating. And that's why we came up with this concept.
Although he hit me physically, my scars became more deeper on the inside. So that's when I say, I had to start building my character. I can be this. I am a strong woman. I am a survivor. I am capable. I'm purposed. I won. And it's not over. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the new me.